lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and with me again, my boy Manny. We are going to be talking our picks of the week. There's going to be a new segment we're going to do. I haven't done picks like weekly picks on the channel, and I think it might have been over a year. It's definitely been over a year since I've been like talking about like the current books. It's just mostly been interviews and old stories, right? So I'm excited to get back into it. Had a blast doing our yearly picks, our best of 2022. So I figured that nice little segue would be to every week talk about the stuff that's coming out, stuff we dig. I know I have a few books. I know we might as well just jump into the one we were just talking about, so we can just keep the conversation going.
I agree.
Let's talk Spawn: Unwanted Violence. You told me it was your pick. I had it as my pick. So let's get into it. Todd McFarlane writing and Mike Del Mundo on art, which huge fan of his art. I think he's phenomenal. The style that he does is just like, it's so unique in comics. You don't see a lot of that. So, and a style you wouldn't necessarily pair with Spawn, in my opinion.
Correct. I mean, I unlike you, I hadn't really heard much of Mike Del Mundo, and like I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, because I'm on Images through the websites I write for. I'm on Images mailing list, so I get PDFs and stuff, and I saw it in there, and I'm like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? Is this some reprint? And then like I pulled up the PDF and looked at it, and I was like, man, this looks amazing. So like I messaged my local comic shop guy, and I said, hey, pull this for me too when it comes in. And he had already pulled it for me because he knew I like Spawn.
Right.
So yeah, man. I mean, it's like you said, it's not the kind of art you usually associate with Spawn. Like like it doesn't have any kind of 90s style, like kind of flat colors to it. Like it's really well. Like, it's probably one of the better looking Spawn books. I mean, considering that the Spawn books overall usually look pretty good. Like all whatever whatever criticisms you may have for them, they always look pretty cool. But this one is kind of like it's strange, but it's great, and the cover's great, and the story's pretty good too, and it does fit in, like the Spawn books all kind of have a big story going on that's kind of jumping in between them, even though each series is sort of still somewhat self-contained, and it does fit into this kind of tapestry that Todd is sort of engineering with the Spawn book since he launched the Spawn's universe, concept.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that I definitely see the criticism with the oversaturation of, you have Gunslinger Spawn, King Spawn, regular Spawn ongoing, and then you got Scorch, the team book, which I think if anything, like I think you said too, like King Spawn, it was your favorite. I think so too. I love Javi Fernandez on art. I think he's such a good artist for that book. But I think the only one that I could like say would not necessarily be egregious in terms of like how much Spawn do we need would be the Scorched, just because it is a team book and it's a lot different than anything before. To me, King Spawn and Spawn kind of cancel each other out because they're both following Al. But I mean, this book, I would prefer, instead of ongoings, I would prefer something like this, a 2-issue miniseries, that's connected to the Spawn universe. You get to see an artist that maybe you wouldn't normally see on the book, and do it that way. I don't think necessarily that, and to Todd's credit, at least he's not putting out $4 or $5 books a month.
Yeah,
he's keeping it at $2.99, and that doesn't
the only one.
And he's not like wavering on the quality. I mean, I think it's some of the best paper stock that you can get, cardstock covers. And he puts money into these books, so like he definitely doesn't slack on that. But this book instantly became my favorite Spawn book I've read this year. Like I said, a huge fan of Del Mundo. I love this story. I think this might be Todd's best writing that I've read in a long time.
In some of the other Spawn books he writes, like he's a little guilty of like sort of describing what's already on the panel. I don't know,
sometimes it's like just like a wall of text, or when he's got like the news anchors, and I'm just like, oh my God. Like part of me, and I'm not trying to be mean, but like I kind of gloss over those because I'm like, I don't need to read fucking like all this prose. I want to see the art. I want it, like, that's the best thing about comics, is it's the pairing of words and pictures, and sometimes when I get a comic and it's just full of text, you kind of lose me, you know, like I kind of just, I need to put it down, I need to step away. This book though, I feel like he really allowed the art to fucking be what it needed to be. Like this was, that's why I said, like, I don't know that I'd say it's his best writing overall. Like I haven't read all of his stuff, so like I'd have to read every issue to comfortably say that. But I think I might want to just say it's his best writing, because I think that the beginning, you know, talking about like the violence and the history of violence from history, like it just had like a kind of poetic quality to it,
I
you know,
noticed
and
it
I
from the
was,
first page.
yeah, and I was like, is this really Todd? And
Yeah,
I went back, I went back to the credits, and I was like, holy shit, this is fucking Todd, you know, and just yeah, it really grabbed me. I think the little stories within of like the crimes that are happening. I mean, I think that you do kind of need to know what's going on currently in Spawn to know about Mark Rosen. So if you don't know about that, but you know, it doesn't take away from it, because I haven't read the Spawn book. I'm behind like maybe like 4 months on the Spawn stuff, but you don't really necessarily need to know that. You can have like a surface knowledge of Spawn, and I think even the Freak, who I'm not totally familiar with, I think like this is a good kind of a good little jumping on point. If I'm being honest, if you haven't been reading Spawn in a while, like this is a pretty serviceable book. And the Freak is a creepy looking motherfucker, you know.
Yeah, dude, and the little draws him really well too.
Yeah, and the fucking scene
like
with
this it's so creepy, like the lighting of the panels. Yeah, that's a good pick, man.
Yeah, definitely a good book. I won't get too into the nitty gritty of like the details of the book, but you know, Spawn is basically Spawn's recruiting the Freak to help him with something, and I think you still at the end of issue 1, it's only 2 issues, oversized, but you still don't even know what Al wants him for, you know. But he stops. The part that I really dug, like what got me, was when he stops the Freak from doing an act of violence towards somebody that definitely deserves it, but Spawn's like trying to pull him out like another time, like I got something else for you. And I was just like, fuck, just let him fucking kill him, you know. Like I was like, because I just read it, I literally just read it right now before we started talking, but I was like, just let the motherfucker die, let him kill him, and then take him wherever you need to go. But yeah, I'm really hyped for this book. It's my favorite Spawn book that I've read in quite a while. So I definitely think that if you've been a fan of Spawn, haven't read in a while, pick it up. If you're curious about Spawn, pick it up. You know, I think it's a book for any fan. I think I don't think you need to be like super entrenched in Spawn lore to enjoy this story. So,
and I like the process pages in the back too. That was cool to see. Like all right, well, I'll jump into my next one. You know, if you guys saw our best of 2022 video, you know that Savage Avengers was one of my favorite titles, and new issue dropped this week, continuing the current storyline where the team is stranded in the Marvel 2099 universe that has been taken over by Ultron with a bunch of Deathlocks. And again, this continues a great storyline, and I mean, like props to that, like the Days of Future Past homage cover. I know it's like one of those covers that has been done to death,
but he did it different. It's a different homage though. I like the angle.
Exactly, it's a lower angle, like, you know, it's not a full. It's the same image, almost like if the camera is pulled in, you know, and that's what I really loved about it. And it's great, man. This is probably my favorite storyline that the comic has done in a while, and it's got one more chapter after this one. And again, I don't want to say too much about it because a lot of the fun is in like the little like surprise details that happen in the story. But it's great. The art continues to be really good, and he has such David Pepos has such a grasp of the 2099 universe. Like you could tell he really loves it. Like, you know, like I get the feeling, and I actually have an interview with him that I'm working on. So, and one of the questions I asked him is like, you know, was it Marvel's idea or yours bringing in 2099? And I feel like it was his because like the love for the characters is so clear.
Yeah.
And you know, like it's a great time to be reading Savage Avengers, and you know, it might be a little hard to jump into this issue if you haven't been reading it because it is like the penultimate like issue of the storyline. But honestly, if you want to grab it, man. Like, you're gonna have a lot of fun with it, and you know, the Savage Avengers has a track record of not lasting too long and getting lost in like the oversaturation, like we were talking about spawners and oversaturation of Avengers comics do sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you don't want to sleep on this one and support it, because it'd be nice to see this title be consistent, even if it does sort of like restart every few years with like a new creative team or a new volume.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, Savage Avengers, and even the title has said Savage Avengers 2099, which I think is cool that like they're taking the concept that far.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I'm you having it in your pick for, you know, last year. I picked up the trade. I read the first volume. I dug it. You know, it was a cool little way to like send. Well, like you talked about, like Conan, Marvel can't do it anymore, right? So the send off was a pretty dope send off the way they did that.
You know, you mentioned it's true. It kind of was the send off for Conan from Marvel. Like I didn't really think about it that way, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So I thought that was really cool.
It was a clever way to get him out of the universe in a way, you know?
Yeah, but without making it feel like you know, jarring or something, or, you know, like too abrupt, or like it fit well with the story arc. And I'm sure that was probably a directive, you know, sent by Marvel. Like, okay, Conan can't be in his last
4 months left with this character. Let's do something and get him out, you know?
Yeah, so that was dope. I almost picked up the singles of the current arc, which is funny. I almost did it yesterday. I almost took them home with me, but I was like, I'll just wait till it's done. Now I kind of wish I would have just caught up with it, because I did dig the book. But yeah, it is a great book. David Pepose is a great writer. I like the artist on the book too. I'll lead into my next pick. I didn't think it would be a pick this week, but The Avengers War Across Time.
I almost picked that up and I didn't.
Yeah, I'm kind of a sucker for like reading stories that are set in the past, you know, and like the classic Avengers without all the baggage, you know, for lack of a better word. So Paul Levitz, who is known for DC, he's not known for Marvel at all. I don't
think he's ever written Marvel before.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to say it, but I'm pretty sure like he hasn't written Marvel. So I mean, you're saying
I'm not
it too.
Sure either, but I'm like 98% sure.
Yeah, I'm about 98% sure too. So, you know, part of the reason I picked it up was because I have an interview with him coming up. So I was nice. Yeah, I was like, okay, like let me pick this book up, and I forgot it was coming out this week. But you know, Paul Levitz writing, Alan Davis on art, and Rochelle Rosenberg on colors, which I'm mentioning the colors especially because it felt like an old comic kind of because of her colors, like the palette that she used. It was kind of like bright pastel, kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, but it was a beautiful book. It's set past, I think it was like tied into Avengers 11. Yeah, Avengers 11 was what it said in the, you know, like, oh, for further reading, check this, you know, the editor's note that they used to always.
That's clever. I like that.
Yeah, so it felt like an old book, but not too dated. You know what I mean? I thought it was a fun book. I won't get too into it, but it's basically a Kang story, right? Obviously, they're doing Kang because Kang is going to be in Ant-Man 3. Yeah. So, but I'm not mad at it. I think it's a clever way to have Kang, but have it be kind of like a nostalgia thing too at the same time, you know? So I really dug the book. It's got the classic team of, there's no Hulk, so it's Cap now. It's Cap, Ant-Man, Giant Man, Thor, and Iron Man. And I don't know, it just reminded me of like the fun of comics, you know, superhero comics without like any dark fucking overtones, you know. It's just, even though the villain is a jerk, right? Like, and he's evil, obviously, it doesn't feel so bogged down. And sometimes you pick up a Marvel or DC comic book and it can feel super bogged down by continuity, by the history of all this like stuff, and like little like Easter eggs of like Cap saving Aunt May, you know, in the comic book, which was kind of cool. And like Kang had used a Spider-Man robot to fight them prior to this. And what I will spoil, which is kind of cool, is he's in the future and he's like collecting things, right? And trying to figure out a way to make his army stronger from the past. But he has Hulk's heart. That's what he has as a trophy. So he uses that and puts it into a robot to power it and sends that back to fight them. So it's like this battle between Hulk and the Avengers. And it's just like it's like a fight comic, you know, but it was fun. It was a really good fun book. Definitely worth picking up.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go back this weekend and grab that.
Yeah, it's just a fun comic. You know what I mean? It's not like some like, oh my god, this is groundbreaking, you know, but it'll remind you what you love about superhero comics, in my opinion. So that's one of my other picks.
Well, my next pick is the new issue of Amazing Spider-Man, which is
haven't read it yet. All right, cool.
Dark Web. If you haven't been reading, Dark Web is a crossover that's kind of going between the Spider-Man and X-Men titles, and it's about Ben Reilly, you know, Peter's clone, who's taken on the identity of Chasm, and him and Madeline Pryor, who's also a clone, have teamed up together and have brought back Limbo. So like, you know, it's sort of tying into Inferno, which was like one of the first big crossovers I read as a kid. So I have like a real personal connection to it. Mm. And I haven't been reading the X-Men side of the crossover, only the Spider-Man, but you're fine if all you read is one of them. At least to me now, it's all making sense. And I've been really enjoying Amazing Spider-Man since Zeb Wells took over.
Agreed. And,
you know, he had John Romita Jr. On the Hobgoblin arc, and this arc is Ed McGuinness, who I also love. So it's a great issue, man. Zeb Wells is known for making his comics like funny and, you know, and more of a comedic bent, which you'd be like, all right, so he's gonna do this Inferno storyline, which deals with demons and limbo and all this stuff. But he makes it work, and it's dark enough, but it still has a lot of humor to it. Mm-hmm. That it Spider-Man has been a lot of fun since he took over, and this arc to me continues that vibe. And the Ed McGuinness is great. I mean, his art might be a little cartoony, but like it pops. For me, it's always popped, and I've loved his art ever since he did Superman with Jeff Loeb back when they were like Our Worlds at War and all that. You know,
dude, I love that, dude. That was my shit, dude. When I was fucking when I was reading.
So as soon as I heard that he was taking over for this arc, I was even more sold, even though the book's already on my pull list. And I love what Zeb Wells has been doing with Ben Reilly. Like, you know, he's making him into an interesting villain because there's a point to Ben being angry. I mean, you know, he's misguided in how he's going about it, but it's just like, it's not his fault he was created. You know, he thought he was a real person for a long time. And like, you know, he feels like he's owed some kind of life. And, you know, he's a sentient being with emotions and feelings. And, you know, it was a little Peter to sort of like take all his memories away from him, you know, because they're his. Like, it was almost a selfish act on Peter, which is cool because Zeb Wells is very good at making Peter believable. Like, he's still a nice guy that, you know, like, you know, is a superhero, but he can be a tad selfish sometimes, and he can make the wrong decisions, you know. And that's what I love about his portrayal of Peter, is like he makes him like a lot like the early like Stan Lee Ditko, where Peter, you know, like,
he was a dick, dude.
Yeah.
He was a fucking dick. I was like, no wonder, like, because I read it not that long ago. I had like the Epic collection. I want to get that Toshin book, but dude, I was reading. I'm like, he's like, I can't stand him, dude. Like, this is why I was thinking, like, this is why you get bullied. Yeah, this is why you're getting bullied, homie.
They were very clever because he you know, Spider-Man's origin is almost like a villain. It's just like, you know, if it wasn't for Uncle Ben, I mean, we know this has been talked about ad nauseum, but if Uncle Ben had never died, Peter would probably be a freaking villain. You know what I mean? Like, because he was going on that route. And Zeb Wells is loves a character enough to still have that in his DNA. Like, don't get me wrong, Peter is not being an asshole here, but what he did to Ben was a dick move, bro. You know what I mean? And like Ben has all the right in the world to be angry. And I love the relationship he has with Madeline Pryor, and like you know, like they're it's a great little like duo they have. I love the design of Chasm, and the fact that Ben Reilly has like a reverse spider sense that's like an offensive spider sense.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting that they added that. Yeah.
And his webs are like almost like ectoplasmic, so like they're shape shifting and stuff. Like, it's if the Chasm identity sticks, it's a really cool new villain for Spider-Man, and like I hope it does. You know, like, he's taken Ben Reilly, one of the most hated characters in you know, Spider-Man, and turned him into an interesting villain. And I'm on board. And I think if you love Spider-Man, give it a chance, man. Like, right now, Amazing Spider-Man is a good title. So that's one of my other picks.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely love the book. There was a point where like I was taking it off my list, adding it back to my list, taking it off for years. You know, like, I was not a huge fan of the last run. but I just love the character so much, and that's
Same.
why like I'd constantly go back and then I'd pick back up the issues that I missed, you know. But Zeb Wells is killing it. I can't wait to read the issue. I just haven't had a chance to read that one yet. But yeah, it's a great book. Definitely worth picking up. If you've been out of Spider-Man for a while, go fix that and pick up the new run. It's that's issue 17, right? Is the newest one?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So my other pick, my last pick that I have,
Yeah, I got
is
one more too.
is Flash 790, which is the beginning of the 1 Minute War. Jeremy Adams is the writer, and I think it's Roger Cruz. Yeah, Roger Cruz on pencils, Matt Banning and Wellington Diaz on inks, Luis Guerrero, or Luis Guerrero on colors. So Jeremy Adams, like I think I've said this before to you. I don't know if it was recorded or if it was before we were recording, after, whatever. Flash is one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
Wally West is my favorite like comic book superhero, you know, like hands down. So getting, you know, post what was the event? I don't know. One of the events where like Barry's no longer the main Flash, it's Wally back in the lead. He's got his kids back. You know, Jay Garrick's back in the book. Max Mercury has come back. Awesome. Jesse Quick has come back. Impulse.
You had me at Max Mercury.
Yeah. So like all the Flash family's back, dude. Like in the book, maybe not all the time, but like they're back and we're seeing them again. And I love what Jeremy Adams has been doing. I think it's quietly one of, you know, like to me, it's like the dark horse of book at DC in terms of like popularity. I know not enough people are talking about it, but you know, like he's been on the book for quite a while now. I think it's at least like maybe this is the fourth arc. I can't remember the exact number he started on, but you know, every character's in this book. You know, you got pages with, you know, there's Max Mercury, you know, back in action. And it's called the 1 Minute War. And it's going to take place, I believe, over the span of a minute. I mean, I don't know if
that's a great hook right there, man.
Yeah. So it's just, I mean, like if you haven't been reading Flash, get back on this book. You know, it's going to be weekly from now on because we already got.
Oh wow! Book. You know what? I'm gonna add it to my list, my pool. Man.
Yeah.
I need to start reading. We've been talking about it so much that like you know I gotta check it out.
It's definitely, dude, it's a fun book, you know, and the family dynamic, him being a dad, his kids have powers, you know, like he's working at Terrifictech for Mr. Terrific, like that's his job now.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just the book makes me happy, you know, like it like I said, how Avengers.
And that's how Flash should be, like this book that makes you happy. You know what I mean? Like
it shouldn't be weighed down by like sadness or anything. Like Flash should always be one of the books that there's just a joy to, because like the Flash from its inception, with especially with Barry, I won't go so far as to say with Jay because I haven't read all those, but like he's just happy to be a hero. Like he's running around with a smile on his face. He helps the everyman. He's running by to stop a crime and somebody's car breaks down. He fixes it real quick and then continues on his way. It's like that kind of stuff. I fucking really dig the book. I think that, you know, there's going to be a 1 Minute War special. And then I already have the new issue, but I didn't want to read that one because I didn't want to talk about it accidentally. So we got our books early at the shop yesterday, so I already have all of DC's next week. But yeah, dude, it's just a great book. I mean, like I can't say anything other than that. If you haven't read Flash in a while, or if you're a fan of like old Flash and you didn't like the whole New 52 erasing some of that stuff, or even like when Joshua Williamson, which arguably is one of my favorite Flash writers, top 3, obviously, he started slowly introducing the characters back. But now they're all back in, you know, everything matters in DC now, like the Omniverse or whatever you want to call it. Every story counts. I can't say enough good about this book. It's just pure superhero fun action. It's got everything. It's got the family stuff. It's got the action stuff. It's got a little bit of drama. You know, to me, it has the whole package, and it's just. This book, Nightwing, World's Finest are like the best I think DC's putting out. Batman and Detective are a close second tier for me, just because like sometimes I get burnt out on Batman. So You know, sometimes like I enjoy the books, but I'm like, fuck, it's just I need a little bit of a break. You know, like DC just 22 Batman titles a month. And I could be right even. I don't know. Like I know I'm exaggerating, but I mean there's a shit ton of Batman. So like it's nice to see them put some love and attention and effort into the other characters, you know, and I think that just real quick on DC, like I'm excited to see what they're doing with this new initiative, the Dawn of DC, like getting to see some new books with characters we haven't seen in a while. We got a Green Arrow book by Williamson, super stoked for. Dan Mora and Wade on Shazam. I think they're gonna do a Hawkman book, maybe. I think you and I talked about how much we like the design of like just Hawkman, right?
So yeah, we did.
So I'm just excited for DC in general, and Flash is just such a great book. If you're not picking it up, pick it up.
Well, you know, funny you mentioned, you know, oversaturation of Batman, because my last pick is a Batman book, but it's Batman and the Joker, the Deadly Duel, which is, it's a Black Label title, so it's not tied into any kind of, you know, continuity, but it's Marc Silvestri writing and drawing Batman, and like over the years, the more I look back, like Marc Silvestri has become like one of my favorites of the original Image founders, and like I love how his style has sort of changed throughout the years, but it's still very much him. And you know, the story is great. It's dark, so it's different from a very dark story, and it deals with, like, you know, Commissioner Gordon has been kidnapped, and someone is mailing pieces of him. They've been cutting off his fingers and shit, sending it to Detective Bullock, and it's and then Harley Quinn has been kidnapped too by the same people, so that pulls in Joker, and the hook is that Batman and Joker have to work together because, like, that's the only way they're going to be able to solve this. And, you know, it's an interesting hook, but the art is amazing, man. Like, I don't think Marc Silvestri has ever drawn Batman before, but his Batman looks great. And he's a very natural Batman artist. I love the coloring. I love the coloring, but I think it's Arif Prianto. I might be pronouncing that wrong.
I think that's right. Yeah.
But like really nice coloring, man. It's a very good looking book. The art reminds me sort of like when Jim Lee was doing Batman, like back during Hush. It has a bit of that style, but it's still very Marc Silvestri, and you can tell just by like the way he does his layouts, you know, like Marc Silvestri has a very specific clean style, and
I think it might be the best of his career, this art.
Oh, absolutely, man. And like I love like what he did on Wolverine, like back in the day. And that for a long time, that was he was my favorite Wolverine artist, you know. Like I think when he did it, I think it was like, you know, like in the mid 50s to like almost like he was on Wolverine for a long time during the 90s.
Yeah, when Larry Hama was writing, right?
Yeah. And he was great then, but you're right. Like he's become so polished, and like I know I think he's like COO of Image now, so he doesn't draw a lot anymore, you know. I think he's doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff with Image, so it's great to see him doing like a regular book, even if it's just a limited series. And again, I'm a big fan of the Black Label stuff because it's a great way to like get into some of the characters that you love from DC and not have to like worry about it being tied into like Dark Crisis or whatever else is going on at DC at the time. And although it's not the large format that some of the Black Label titles have, which I think would have been awesome to see Marc Silvestri's art on that would bring up the price point and like, you know, like maybe not make it as like a good selling point for DC. But don't let that stop you, because it's a very well put together book. Like all the Black Label titles, the paper stock is great. You got a nice stock cover, like it feels great. And like another thing I love, like I mentioned with the Spawn book, is the process pages, man. And like, dude, Marc Silvestri's pencils in black and white are so good. I would love to see them do a black and white book.
I want them to release a black and white version. You know how they've done like the noir? Yes.
Yeah, noir. Dude. They need to. DC, if anyone at DC is watching, please do a Deadly Duel noir book.
Yeah.
Because like the accessories are neat. Those pencils need to be seen in their pure form, because, dude, his line work is amazing. And you're right, he's doing career-defining work here.
I mean, and I think that the reason maybe it wasn't in an oversized format is this book has been talked about for like 7 years. There was no black label. Maybe longer than that, yeah. But there was no black label when this book.
Yeah, exactly. It was meant to be something, yeah. And like I think, from what I understand, I think it was on Rob Liefeld's podcast, because he's been pushing this book for months. Yes. And I think he had mentioned that like it all started with like a conversation like at San Diego Comic-Con maybe like 8 or 9 years ago, like you said, that they were having with DC, and you know, it was kind of an offhand suggestion and it just ballooned, and then like it took this long. I don't know how long Silvestri's been working on it.
A long time. Yeah. He's been working on it a long time because my boss, the owner of the shop, is friends with him. So he's like, so we had a signing. Like he didn't do any signings for this book, but he did it at one of our locations. I didn't get to go because I was working at the other store, but yeah. So like, I know he's been working on it a long time. So, and they wouldn't solicit an issue until all of it was done.
So it's all done. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, smart on their part, you know, because who the hell wants to wait like 4 or 5 months in between issues, which you know would have fucking happened.
Yeah, because he's a busy guy, man. I mean,
yeah, it's not. He's running Top Cow. He's helping run Image. You know, like it's not like he's just at the drawing board. You know, he's got other stuff going on. So, you know, I forgot it even came out this week because, like I told you, I think last time when we did our best of or whatever video we did last time. We got our books a week early, so I read last week's books with this week's books, and I already have next week's books. So like I didn't have it in my pile that I brought home yesterday, so I just forgot. But that would have been on my list too. I think it's a great book. I can't wait for
I love this joke with like the freaking leather mask, like out of Pulp Fiction's like Gimp scene. You know what I mean? Like it's he draws such a creepy Joker, man. Like you don't realize it, but I'm like, he should have been drawing Batman a long time ago, man.
Oh, for sure, dude. His Gotham is fucking just creepy.
And his Harvey Bullock, right? Like he's just like, I was like, I can't believe I never thought of Silvestri on Batman. You know, like as much as I did love like the Jim Lee art for the Hush storyline, I'm like, imagine this. You know what I mean? Like, because it has that Jim Lee polish, but it's darker. You know, like
the rendering is like next level, you know, compared to like a Jim Lee. And I think that, I mean, if you had to, this is no shade against Jim Lee. I love Jim Lee.
Dude, X-Men. I love the Hush storyline.
But if you had to ask me, like at this point right now, which person I'd rather see do another Batman book, it would definitely be Silvestri is who I would pick, you know? But yeah, I mean, a lot of great books. I mean, I think we said it, dude. Like when we were talking 2022, 2023 looks like it's going to be a great year. And so far.
Yeah, man. I mean, every week there's at least 2 or 3 books that I'm like super stoked on getting, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, a bunch of other books that I got, you know, that even last week that I haven't talked about yet. I mean, I got Gunslinger Spawn, like What's the Furthest Place from Here by Matthew Rosenberg. Yeah, that I've been really loving, and Tyler Boss. Like, dude, I'm glad there's a reason to go back to the shop every week, you know? Like, you know, there was a period there where like I not last year, because last year was awesome too, but I think the year before that where like I would just go maybe every couple of weeks because like I didn't have that excitement. But now like and especially since my shop gets stuff early too, like on Tuesday mornings, like I'm like stoked. Oh, cool! I can go got the shop on my way to work. I'll have my books for the week. Like it becomes part of my weekly ritual, and I love that's become a thing for me again, man. So, and having these conversations is even gonna make it even better because like it's gonna feel like just like a synchronicity there, man. You know, like great books, you know, great stuff to talk about. So yeah, man, get out there. There's good books every week.
Hell yeah, dude. And I'm glad we're doing this too. It's going to get me to pick up stuff, maybe like even read stuff that I wouldn't necessarily read, just to kind of like see if like, oh, maybe this will be fun to talk about. Like the Avengers War Across Time. Like I wasn't planning necessarily to pick it up, but I'm glad I did. And like you said, a lot of good stuff that's coming up. So I'm stoked to talk about it. That's all I got for my picks.
Yeah, same.
So I'm looking forward to doing this next week, and you guys know the deal. I'm going to drop the links for myself and Manny down below. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, bell icon, so you're notified every time new vids go up. And on that note, we're out.
See you guys next week.